I'm here with
Brian Hogan.
Okay, and you have been a long-time member, sort of, Twin Cities Code Camp. How many of you spoke at so far?
I was here for one in fall of 2008. That was when I first came here.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
I don't know how long you've been doing it since before then, but that was the first one.
We were talking about that before. I think 2007 was one of the first ones. So yeah, you've been a member, and I think actually it's been good having you here because you've been, in a way, forcing us to be a little bit more open. We've always been open, but getting more people to be here that's not just a Microsoft event, and that's actually been good because it's slowly but surely getting more and more heterogeneous rather than just homogeneous, which is good.
Yeah, they've sent some great talks today. I've seen the closure talk. I saw this one was great, and the Git talk that came out of that was just awesome too. I learned a ton of stuff, and I use Git all the time. So it's been really nice to have that really open, really open tracks too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So your two talks, you're doing one today and one tomorrow. The one you did today was an intro to advanced Ruby.
Yeah.
Which is kind of an interesting twist to it. So what did you talk about?
So, every time you give a talk on an introductory programming language topic, you never get to talk about the things that make the language really cool. Because a lot of times with almost every programming language, you never get to deal with the cool stuff until after you learn the basics. And so sometimes people need a reason to use a language. And so we focused on the things in Ruby that let you write applications that are a little bit more extendable. How do you build things in a more modular way? So I talked about the features of Ruby like modules, where you can write some code and you can tuck it away, and you can add those behaviors to an object or a class, and you can bring these things together to build more complex domain objects than you normally would. It was just a way to let people see that, okay, once you learn the language, these are the kind of cool things that you can accomplish, and these are how you solve some harder problems.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And it was funny because we were talking about epic Twitter battles as we were coming out here that you and I have supposedly had on Twitter. But it was funny because I was watching some Twitters from another guy who was, I thought there were some good responses to what he was saying, because he seemed to say, I don't understand this. He didn't get why you use Ruby, but he was also willing to listen. I think you and John were responding to him about some stuff.
Yeah.
So that was good to see. And then tomorrow you're going to do a talk for writers.
Yeah.
More or less. So, because you have a passion for writing. You actually are an editor for Pragmatic?
Yeah, right now I'm doing developmental editing for the Pragmatic Bookshelf. And
okay.
it's been a hoot because I get to teach and I get to work with books and I get to learn about new technologies. It's just a great thing. But one of the things I've really enjoyed is watching authors bring their passion for their topic into a book. And there's a lot of questions now. Why do people want to write books? Why would you write a book when I can get all that information off the internet? And so tomorrow's talk's going to be about, it's going to answer some of those questions, and it's going to talk about how you go through that process. Do you go with a publisher? Do you self-publish? How do you self-publish? How do you find the people to help you with this process? And so it'll be a very broad talk. And because it's a code camp, I am actually going to show some code. I'm actually going to show some ways to do markup so that you can get your book into like EPUB format and PDF format and stuff too. So I do want to, it is a mostly non-code talk, but I think it's a code camp. You got to have some code. You got to do that. So.
We actually were talking before too about that. Some of the talks we're bringing into the code camp, they may not be code specific, but as long as they're developer focused or some things you can't control. It's gonna come right over there. We can't see it through the clouds. Awesome. All right. Anyway, so we were talking about that. Even though there might be some talks like the one that you're going to do, or there's one about being an independent, that they may not have a lot of code, if any, but they're very relevant for developers. So I think we're saying those I think are acceptable in the code camp, and that's fine. The one thing I want to ask you is, what you said, why would you want to write these days? And I'm actually in the process of writing a book myself right now again, and you're not making millions of dollars like. Well, nobody ever did. But it's what is the appeal? Because like you said, this is on the internet. Why should I write a book? Do you see in the future maybe the whole idea of a book being not going away, but going to something a completely different type of delivery format?
Well, one of the things that separates your typical blog articles from what you see in a book is the people who are driving you, who are behind the scenes pushing that book, your developmental editors and your publishers. They want you to focus not on how to do something, which is what a blog post will tell you. A blog post will tell you how to do something. Mm-hmm. But what the author of a book is coming to you at is why you should do X this way because of my experience that I'm bringing to the table. And that's the piece that a lot of people who are writing blog articles, they leave that part out. You can go out and find thousands of blog articles on how to add a calendar widget to your web page. But which one should you use for which purpose? Which one fits better with whatever technology you're using? So what you're bringing with when you're writing a book is the expertise, and the good publisher and a good developmental editor and a good staff is going to try to bring that information out to the reader, to bring that value to the reader. That's what the readers are asking for. They want your expertise. So, the print book is kind of in a little bit of trouble because you've got your Borders is collapsing a little bit now, and you've got Barnes & Noble's not doing the greatest, and Amazon basically owns the distribution channel now. But people are buying ebooks. People are buying Kindles because the publishers have figured out that they can update the ebooks faster. And so you may end up with books that you have a support system that the publisher brings, and you have a platform that you can get updates to, and you may end up with more living books. You may end up with more frequently updated content.
So almost like an open source project where you can get version 1.0, but then you can get them either with Ruby Gems or NuGet, whatever environment you're in, but you can get those updates much quicker. You don't have to get like the paper version for 2 years from now. You can get it 2 months with all the errata baked right in.
I know one of the things that the Pragmatic Programmer has done for a couple of their titles that have been in beta for a long time longer is they actually have this process called beta on paper. You can actually get a printed copy of the book with all the errors and everything. It's at a discounted price, but you can get it. And if you really are a fan of paper book, because there are some developers that still love to have the physical paper book on their desk while they're working, and so there's still a market for that. But I think you're going to see those trends change because once it's on paper, it's very hard to fix an error that you made that slipped through all those processes. Because no matter how good of an editor you've got, no matter how good of a writer you are, you're going to make mistakes. Something's going to get messed up, and you're going to have to fix it. You're going to have a book on a shelf that you can't modify. So,
okay, cool. Thanks, Ryan.
Yep.